of Unravelling the Scroll of Esther. Our first two parts are posted, and one is able to certainly watch those at your will. Each one is a self-contained thought. And this is the third part. It is entitled Day of Prayer, and we're going to talk about gifts to the poor. And as we mentioned many times, there are four main mitzvos of the Day of Purim. The first one that we've spoken about already is the reading of the Kriyas Megillah, the reading of the Megillah itself. The second mitzvah is Mishloach Manos, sending gifts to our friends. The third mitzvah is Matanos Le'Avyonim, gifts to the poor people. And the fourth mitzvah, which will be the last and final class, is called feasting and rejoicing, which we'll talk about what that is exactly. So today we're going to focus on gifts to the poor. And in the title I called it Day of Prayer. So which one is it? And this is the first thought that needs to be said. And that is that Chazal tell us, Kol haposhet yad, anyone that sticks out his hand, no sin lo, give him. Now, normally throughout the year, if someone comes to collect money from us, we have the right and we're encouraged to find out and make sure that they're valid. We don't throw out our money for no reason, and we're not supposed to just trust people. Unfortunately, today we live in a world where we don't know who's coming to collect money from us, who they are, what their real needs are, and therefore many cities have verification systems. Many people try to get letters from famous people in order to get endorsed and to validate the charity fund that they're collecting for. But yet, on Purim, we're told that we should not be as strict, and rather, kol haposhet yad, anyone that puts out their hand, no sin lo, we give them. And of course, even in today's world, I know of many cases of thieves that go around on Purim knowing that the Jews are so generous and taking advantage of people, and it is important for one to question slightly if something looks suspicious. Certainly, this doesn't mean that we should foolishly give away our money. It just means that if there's an organization that you know is being collected for and you wouldn't normally look at it, and they're coming to ask you for money, or you have the opportunity to give them, then you should more openly consider that. Of course, we are never told to give out our money to people that are not trustworthy or things that are suspicious, just to clarify that. And what Chazal are telling us is that a very interesting thing, that on Purim there is an atmosphere of anyone that asks will be granted things. And what this refers to is the entire atmosphere of the fact that the Jews re-accepted the Torah on Purim. Hadar kiblu me'achashverosh. They re-accepted the Torah in the times of Achashverosh, and therefore, in that merit, Hashem says that you, so to speak, said Na'aseh v'nishma again. You said that you're going to follow the Torah and be passionately dedicated to the Torah. So Hashem also works that way in heaven, that He gives, and He's generous. And that is why the Purim, which is a day of prayer, is also equated with the tzedakah, the charity that we give to the poor people. Because when you take care of Hashem's children, and you say, here's a poor person, here's an institution that needs my help, and here I'm going to give them and take care of them, then Hashem says, I'm going to take care of you. And kol haposhet yado, anyone that sticks out their hand, you should give them. Hashem looks at us and says that if you ask Hashem for the things that you need, He'll give you. And the Mishabur brings down lahalacha, according to the Jewish law, if you gave your Mishloach Manos, you gave your Matanos Le'Avyonim, and you have enough for your Suda of Purim, and you heard the Megillah, and you have extra money, and you're wondering, what should I do with it? What's the best thing that I could do with this extra money? So, should I give Mishloach Manos, give to more friends, or should I give Matanos Le'Avyonim, gifts to the poor? The Mishabura brings down halacha based on the Rambam. The Rambam says that the greatest thing to do is to be misameach, is to bring joy to those that are in need, to give to the poor people and to take care of them. And so that is the entire essence of a day of Purim, is one of generosity, sharing, caring, and giving. And this is because this is the foundation of the entire Torah. The Jews re-accepted the Torah out of love towards God for the fact that He did this great miracle for them. And in order to relive that ourselves, we try to be as generous as we possibly can on Purim. Once again, just to clarify, it doesn't mean that we do foolish things with our money. It doesn't mean that we spend beyond our means. That means that we are open, a little bit more open than usual. And that's what it means that Purim is a day of prayer. Because Hashem is listening to our tefillos. And what's very interesting is that if we look, there's a sign that's brought down at the end of Megillah Esther, that the middle pasuk in the entire Megillah Esther is Vatan Esther Vatomar She'elasi Ubakashasi. Esther said, I have a request and something that I need from the king. And Chazal tell us that the king, obviously the simple reading of the pasuk refers to Achashverosh, but whenever it says the king, it also refers to God himself. And therefore, what Esther is showing is that when something is the middle of the Megillah, it's the middle pasuk, that means that everything else revolves around that fulcrum, that middle point. So what is Vatan Esther Vatomer She'elasi Vakashasi? It means that the entire essence of Purim is one of tefillah, one of davening. Esther said, She'elasi Vakashasi, my requests and my begging of God, that's what needs to be answered. And Purim is a phenomenal day. We should never forget that. With all the distractions of the day and all the beautiful things and all the fun, don't forget to daven. Chazal even tell us that it's brought down, the Kaf HaChaim brings us down, that one should say the kapitel of Tehillim, which is Ayelas HaShachar, which refers to the story of Esther and has a lot of Ramazan the Gemara brings in, which is kapitel Chav Beis, I believe, I might be mistaken, it's Chav Aleph. I looked it up right before, I think it's Chav Beis, but it starts off with Lamatzeach Ayelas HaShachar, which Ayelas HaShachar, the Gemara says, refers to Esther. What that means exactly, is it an animal that it's describing, or is it the rising sun that it's describing? This is, according to the Yerushalmi's reading of it at least, the sprouting of the sun. The sun comes up. And just like the sun comes up in the morning, so too God's revelation and God's salvation of the Jewish people sprouted from Esther. And that is why Purim is a day of tefillah, a day of davening. We should never forget that. It's one of the most important things of the entire day. Of course, there are 4 mitzvahs that we do, midrabanan. We make sure to hear the Megillah, we make sure to give Mishalach Manos, Matanos Avyonim, have a Suda, and feasting and rejoicing. But one of the main things is a davening. And Hashem listens to us, and it's brought down in this forum that some tefillos that are not answered the whole year are answered on Purim. And Chazal say Yom Kippurim, it's a day like Yom Kippur is a great day. It's a day of real intense prayer. But it's Kippurim. It doesn't even compare to the day of Purim. That's what the Arizal says. And that's a phenomenal thing. Purim has this power that it's in some ways, according to the Arizal's explanation, greater than Yom Kippur itself. And obviously, one of the explanations is that on Yom Kippur we're not eating, we're removed from the physical world, and that's a greatness that we achieve, that we wouldn't be able to achieve without that. But getting away all the distractions. But there's also a greatness in using the physical world and being able to eat and drink and be merry and to elevate our bodies. And that's the greatest feat, so to speak, of Purim and the greatness of Purim. And we find many psukim in Megillas Esther that correspond to davening as well. For example, Mordechai's name is Ben Yair, Ben Shimi, Ben Kish. And Chazal explain Yair means that Mordechai's grandfather used to daven and his tefillos were answered. And Shimi means Hashem would listen to his tefillos. And Kish, Shehikish al Dalse Shemayim, that he would knock on the door. And there's a beautiful gra that I have up on my website. I explain this a little bit better in my Purim Everyday series, which explains exactly why this is the essence of Purim. But according to what we're explaining, on a simple level, what can be understood is that davening is the essence of a day. That all these things, all these beautiful concepts, the fact that the Jews re-accepted the Torah makes it that their tefillos are answered by Hashem, and it's a special day where we could turn to Hashem in prayer. That's the power. Also, it says, the Gra says that there's a remez that if you want to be able to concentrate during davening, the segula is that you should daven with a sitter. How do I know? So a simple explanation is because when you daven with a sitter, you're looking at the words that you're saying. But the Gra says, of course it's true, but it says in Megillas Esther, Ravo lefnei hamelech, when you come in front of the king, Amar Ima Sefer. You should say it while holding the Sefer, while holding the book, so like this you can concentrate. Why is this remez, this hint, found in Megillas Esther? The answer is because the essence of tefillah is turning to Hashem in desperation and saying, God, look, Haman wants us all dead. Achashverosh is on his side. We have no one to help us except you. Turning to Hashem, that's the ultimate idea of prayer, that we have that zechus to be able to do that on Purim. And so, obviously, as I've said, the most important thing is to do the mitzvos of a day and to be able to enjoy them, to hear the Megillas Esther, which is so much fun to listen to as we understand the story on deeper and deeper levels every year, and participating in that beautiful experience at shul, and giving matanos le'avyonim to the poor people, showing that we care about others and we care about the Jewish nation, and of course, shalach manos, sending gifts to our friends as well, and increasing the reyes, as we spoke about last time, increasing the friendship between one another. And the last one, which we'll speak about shortly in the fourth part, which is the feasting and rejoicing, which is also an idea of getting close to Hashem. And so when we take the day and we daven and we use it, it's a very important thing to keep in mind that there are 4 mitzvahs, but one of the most important things of a day is to take advantage of the koach hatfilah, that we could daven to Hashem and get our bakashas answered. May Hashem listen to and answer all of our tefillah speedily, every day, and on Purim especially. Thank you so much for listening, and I welcome you to join us for the final part coming up soon.